we often hear, and as I listen to property podcasts once again, I hear others talk about it. That property investors talk about this idea of an investment grade property, and we don't really have that in the share market. There's no one that says this is investment grade. That's not. You can go into bond markets and you can find that, but in your mind, what makes an investment grade property versus one that's not?
Yeah, so Stuart Weems talks about investment grade a lot. He's a gun planner down in Melbourne, and he gets property. Really, it comes down to just two fundamentals. You've got demand and you've got supply. And so really, if we think about supply first, it's really easy to think about that. Can they build more of it? And is it truly scarce? Is it, and so if you think about a house and land package in the suburbs, can they build more of them? Yes. Can you think about a new high rise? Can they build more of them? Yes. So they're just fundamentally, they're flawed because there's just more supply that can be built. New townhouses, they can build more of them. So you need to get something where there's actually capped supply. Mm-hmm. So if you think about houses in a 5K ring of a city, can they build more houses? No. Mm-hmm. Is there going to be less houses in 10 years' time? Yes, because they're going to knock the houses down to build apartments, to build townhouses, to build shopping centres and freeway or whatever, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So there'll be less houses. There's no land left. So from a supply point of view, it's good. And is that supply highly desirable for on the demand side to people that want to live in it, not to buy it to invest in? Do they want to live in it and raise a family? And do two double income kind of families want it? Because they're the ones who've got the borrowing capacity and the cash to go and borrow the money, or they're willing to put their money into it. Mm. And so what you're trying to do is find property that is really scarce and in suburbs where they're not going to change, because the livability, what makes the suburb desirable today to live in for families, you want that to be the same in 10 years' time. Mm. So you want to buy in areas that have got lots of heritage overlays, parks, beautiful streets, because if you come back in 10 years' time or 20 years' time or 30 years' time, those will probably stay the same. Mm-hmm. The CBD is only going to keep growing with the population. And so then that from a living point of view should stay the same. And so then as a percentage, if you come back in 20, 30 years' time, the percentage of the population that could afford that property will be, or the number will be much bigger, mm-hmm. and they'll just start competing for these assets. The problem is you don't want to buy, if you think about Melbourne, all the eastern suburbs around the bay, it's just too expensive, and so where you would potentially look in Melbourne is maybe the upper north and the inner west, because it's still affordable to kind of first home buyers. And so if you're going to buy an investment grade, you'd probably go there because the yield wouldn't be too bad compared to, say, the east and the Bayside.
How about in Sydney?
Similar, you can do it in the inner west. The eastern suburbs is like 1.5 plus. Yep. But in the inner west, in places, around, the Balmains, the Annandales, the Glebe, Stanmore, Petersham, Newtown, all these suburbs, you can buy little houses that families would love to live in, in the low ones, which is pretty cool.
Okay. That's kind of the reality. It's scary though, isn't it? It's for first home buyers, it's to think about $1 million on a first home.
Yeah. I mean, I think where you're looking for that double income, both working on two solid incomes that both probably work in the city, and both earn, reasonable money. Mm. The problem is people are taking $1 million mortgages out 45Ks from the city in Sydney. Mm. And they're pushing themselves to the nth degree. And they're borrowed right up to their maximum. They've got a loan at 95% and they bought a housing estate. That to me is a lot riskier.
Yeah, for sure.